What if one guy could take down an entire government just by making people realize they weren't actually powerless? That's the core of V for Vendetta. England has turned into a straight-up nightmare. The news is controlled, people disappear, every screen tells you what to think, and nobody dares step out of line. Then one night, this dude shows up wearing a mask. He calls himself V, and he's not here to save anything. He's here to burn the whole system down and make the country remember what freedom feels like. He blows up buildings, hijacks broadcasts, and drags one ordinary woman, Eevee, into the middle of his plan. And the wild part? He doesn't care about being a hero. He doesn't even care if people like him. He just wants them to stop being afraid. So today, we're diving into Alan Moore's V for Vendetta to see how one masked man turned fear into fuel, how a broken woman became a rebel, and why his plan made an entire country finally fight back. By the end, I want to know if you think V was right, or if he just replaced one kind of tyranny with another. Our story begins in London in the year 1997, with radio broadcasters talking about the weather. The people are asked to avoid the quarantine zones of the city for their own safety, while productivity reports indicate a possible end to meat rationing starting mid-February 1998. There are street cameras everywhere, recording everything for everyone's protection. A young girl named Eevee is getting dressed and ready to go out, while a man wearing a creepy mask and a cape is doing the same thing somewhere else. Eevee runs into a man and asks him if he wants to have, saying she's only 16 years old, but she knows what she's doing. She's done this before. This guy pulls out a badge and claims he's a fingerman, accusing her of illegal prostitution, which is a Class H offense. A couple more guys show up and they are all working together, saying they're gonna her and then kill her for breaking the law. Out of nowhere, the man wearing the creepy mask shows up, but he's talking nonsense, quoting passages from books. He's extremely fast and strong, and he easily deals with a couple of the men while also using tear gas to distract the others so he can safely save Eevee. When it was all done, a couple of fingermen were killed, and they've got no clue how he moved so fast. They've never seen anything like it. The guy with the mask takes Eevee to the rooftops, claiming it's not over, while glancing toward the city. Suddenly, there's a powerful explosion that takes out the Houses of Parliament, followed by a fireworks spectacle that lights up the entire night sky. Everyone heard and saw what happened, and they took to the windows, admiring the show in shock. The next day, early in the morning, there's an active investigation going on, and law enforcement is trying to figure out what happened and who this guy with the mask is. Phone surveillance indicates that a large proportion of the people are talking about the explosion. Police Inspector Eric Finch, who works for the Nose, found the device which was probably used to launch the fireworks and some spent casings from individually weighted flares. Everyone is reporting back to the leader, the man in charge of the city, who's sitting comfortably on his fancy chair. The government is divided into different branches, each tasked with a different purpose. The eye is responsible for visual surveillance, the ear is responsible for audio surveillance, the nose represents the police and criminal investigation, the finger is the secret military police, and the mouth is the propaganda of the new regime. The leader is angry with Mr. Derek Almond, who works for the finger, blaming him for what happened, saying the man with the mask did the unthinkable. He hurt them. They're supposed to make an announcement, so he wants him to head over to the radio station and talk to Mr. Dascombe at Jordan Tower and arrange something. The main broadcaster is a guy named Lewis Prothero, an older man whose voice is known by everyone in London, making him a very popular figure. Meanwhile, the guy with the mask brought Eevee to his hideout, a place called the Shadow Gallery. This place is filled with art, books and music which have all been forbidden after the Great War in this dystopian London. After work, Prothero gets on a train and is heading home accompanied by two people working for the government. He mentions his amazing doll collection, while also bragging that he used to be a ladies' man while recounting his past romances. The journey begins, but while they are moving at high speed, someone jumps onto the train and they think they've seen a shadow. Suddenly, the train goes into a tunnel and everything goes dark, but Prothero lights his pipe and keeps recounting romance stories. Suddenly, the man with the creepy mask appears next to him. He killed the other guys in silence and now it's his turn. The train arrives at the destination, but Prothero is missing, and Inspector Finch arrives on the scene. The two guards were killed and lay with their mouths open, and he thinks that whoever killed them used his fingers. There is also a V-shaped mark painted on the wall and a violet Carson rose left on one of the seats. It seems that this masked criminal has a thing for the letter V. The masked man returns home and finds Eevee crying because she was alone for many hours and thought he was not coming back. He rescued her last night from those men, but she doesn't even know his name, to which he replies that she can just call him V. Eevee tells her life story. She was born in 1981 and lived together with her poor parents. She even has a photo with them taken during the recession. She was only 7 when the Great War happened, the nuclear war between the United States and America. Her mother told her that Africa wasn't there anymore. It was wiped out, and she was worried it might happen to Britain as well, but it didn't. Nonetheless, the nuclear war had affected the entire world, and ice caps began melting, which flooded big parts of Britain. There was no food and the sewers were flooded, and everybody got sick, including her mother, who died in 1991. The years following the war were just as bad because there were riots and people with guns. Nobody knew what was going on, and everyone was waiting for the government to do something. But there wasn't any government anymore. However, in 1992, somebody took charge. It was all the fascist groups, the right-wingers. They soon got things under control, but then they started taking people away. All the black people and the Pakistanis. They took white people too, all the radicals and the men who liked other men, the homosexuals. But she doesn't know what they did with them. Her dad was taken as well because when he was younger, he was a member of a socialist group. They made her work in a factory with a lot of other kids, putting matches into boxes. She lived in a hostel. It was cold and dirty, and she used to cry all the time because she wanted her dad. Some of the older girls made money by going with men, so she tried as well. That was last night, when the fingermen caught her, and they were about to her. V comforts her, saying everything's gonna be alright, and if she trusts him, he's gonna wipe all of it away. All the pain, all the cruelty, and they can start again. Prothero eventually wakes up, but he's not on the train anymore. He was brought to Lark Hill resettlement camp, a place which he recognizes. Inspector Finch reports back to the leader, claiming he thinks that V is a psychopath. The leader thinks that pretty soon he will issue a list of demands or ask for the usual concessions. But Finch says he's out for blood. The leader thanks him for his service and asks him to leave because he wants to speak with fate, but we don't know who that is. V puts on a different costume and tells Eevee it's them against the world and he's going to bring the house down. He comes face to face with Prothero, who begs him to let him go, saying he had nothing to do with the resettlement camps and that he's just a radio broadcaster. But V was there and he remembers him. He took all of his dolls and placed them next to each other in rows. But Prothero loves his dolls very much and this makes him angry. There was a special section in the camp called the medical compound, and V was kept there in room 5. That's when Prothero remembers him, even though he was younger back then. But V remembers he used to do something else at the camp. He used to work the ovens, where they would burn people alive. He starts the oven and burns all of his dolls, incinerating them in a blaze of fire and heat. Prothero can't stand seeing his beloved dolls melt away right in front of him and loses his mind. V leaves him alive, but the shock of seeing his dolls destroyed was too much, and he went completely crazy and even started talking like one of them. He used to be the voice of London. Everyone who listened to the radio knew who he was, but now things are changing. It just won't be the same anymore. Issue 2 begins with Adam Susan, also known as the leader, heading to work in his fancy limousine. He talks to himself and says he's a man like any other man, but he believes in fascism. He believes in strength. He believes in unity. He will not hear talk of freedom. He will not hear talk of individual liberty. They are luxuries, and he doesn't believe in luxuries. The war put paid to luxury. The war put paid to freedom. He doesn't reserve for himself the freedom that he denies to others. He sits within his cage and works like everybody else. He's simply a servant, a master of all that he sees. He knows he's not loved, not in soul or body. No woman has ever loved him, but at least he's respected and feared, and that will be enough. He loves his job, which is spying on everybody else from his special room where he interacts with fate, a supercomputer that keeps tabs on everyone in London. He could stay here forever. He would spend his entire life with fate because he loves her. Meanwhile, somewhere else, V is talking to a statue of Lady Justice, which represents London's Central Criminal Court. He quotes passages from books and claims the two of them used to be in love, but they both cheated on each other. He cheated on her with anarchy, but it was mostly because of her infidelity, which drove him into anarchy's arms. He then gives the statue a present, a heart-shaped box filled with chocolates, but instead of having chocolates inside, there are explosives which take out the statue in a blaze of flames. Somewhere else, Detective Finch is talking to the voice of London, Mr. Prothero, who's gone completely mad ever since his encounter with V. In the shadow gallery, there's a V-shaped inscription in the big hall, and Eevee wonders if it stands for something. Apparently, it's a quotation, a motto from Latin, which translates to, "By the power of truth, I, while living, have conquered the universe." Eevee wonders if she can help him somehow. She's been trapped here ever since he saved her, but she wants to be useful and wonders if they can make a deal. It's December 20th and people attend church at Westminster Abbey. Archbishop Anthony Lilliman is giving a lovely ceremony, and most of London's top families are attending. At the end, Derek Almond and his wife meet with Conrad Heyer and his wife in the parking lot. One of the wives mentions the terrorist V, and Derek vows to catch him because sooner or later he'll make a mistake. Derek works for the Finger, a government branch which is basically a secret military police force. Inside the church, the bishop is getting ready to unwind and relax, while Dennis, his valet, says there was some kind of mix-up at the agency and they've sent an older girl. The girl they've sent is 15 years old, but the old man likes them younger than that. However, it will have to do. The girl is actually Eevee in disguise, wearing a cute pink dress which impresses the bishop. Somewhere else, V is getting ready to leave, but not before picking one of his signature roses from the garden. Dennis brings a couple of drinks to the two guards sitting outside. They've had to double security for important people ever since the terrorist attacks. They know about the bishop's taste for young girls, but they're not bothered by it and instead make jokes about it. The bishop asks Eevee to sit next to him, but she wonders if they could open up a window. It's a nice night with the wind and everything, and she loves to hear the wind. It's exciting. Next, she says it would be thrilling to hear him read something religious, claiming she's very receptive to hearing it. He takes her into his private bedroom, a fancy room with lots of expensive furniture, which includes a tiger rug. Outside, the two guards see a shadowy figure running toward them, but before they can react, V takes out his knives and kills both of them, leaving their corpses on the ground. He then heads toward the church and climbs through the window which Eevee left open especially for him. The bishop finishes reading from the Bible and then asks her to take her dress off. She refuses and instead hits him over the head with a lamp. She then runs into the corridor, but the bishop vows to kill her, saying there's nowhere to run because this place is completely locked. He wants to go after her, but he runs straight into V, who was just walking into his room. Somewhere else, two guys working for the ear are spying on the general population. But it's a boring night. Apparently nobody has sex anymore. They decide to spy on the bishop and know he likes to have fun with young girls, but they hear a man's voice coming from his room. The voice talks to the bishop and claims it doesn't have a name, but he can call him V. They quickly alert the police, but when they get there, it's already too late and they only find bodies lying on the floor. Inspector Finch and his partner Dominic are leading the investigation. Just as before, they find V's signature mark on the walls inside the church and his flower left at the crime scene. They listen to the recordings, but they've got a problem. There was some kind of background music the entire time, which is apparently Morse code for the letter V. They know that a girl was with the bishop when it happened. It's safe to assume she was an accomplice and she escaped. V shut off the lights completely and started quoting passages to the bishop which scared the living shit out of him. While they were talking, Dennis walked through the door armed with a pistol, but he couldn't see what was going on. V quickly dealt with him and then gave the bishop something to eat, saying that the moment it enters his mouth it becomes the flesh of the Savior, just like in a Catholic mass ceremony. Apparently the bishop was poisoned. The thing that he ate was full of cyanide. There was also a wound inflicted in the man's abdomen, but it doesn't appear to be a knife wound. It looks like something's been punched through the skin with incredible force. Finch shows the doctor the flower that was left at the crime scene, a violet carson, a strain which had died out since the war, though a botanist might be able to shed some light on it. After their mission, V and Eevee return to the Shadow Gallery, but she's upset because she didn't know they were gonna kill the bishop. She's an accomplice now, but it's not what she wanted, even though she said she wanted to make a deal and get involved. From now on, no more killing people, but V thinks that he'll eventually convince her otherwise. Derek Almond, head of the Finger branch, is back at his apartment, but his wife wants them to carry on and pretend that something didn't happen. This puts him in a bad mood and he slaps her, claiming his boss is already breathing down his neck about this terrorist case. He wants her to stop crying, and if they don't sleep together like they used to. It's nothing to do with him. Maybe if she took the time to make herself more attractive. Delia Surridge, the doctor who performed the autopsy on the bishop, returns home after a long day's work. She keeps staring at the rose that V left at the crime scene, while also remembering a shadowy figure surrounded by flames. Meanwhile, V put Eevee to sleep and finished reading her a bedtime story, but now it's time for him to go on another mission. Inspector Finch's partner, Dominic, comes up with a crazy idea, saying that the resettlement camps, like the one at Lark Hill, used Roman numerals to number the rooms, just like the terrorist is using. Finch thinks it's a brilliant theory and checks his computer to see if any of the recent victims used to work at any of the camps. Apparently the bishop used to work there and so did Prothero. They both worked at Lark Hill camp. There must have been dozens of people working there. They just need to interview them. But after checking more names, all of them are already dead. Dr. Delia has fallen asleep but is woken up by V, who broke inside her home. She wonders if he's come to kill her and he says yes. However, she isn't scared and is relieved, thanking God that her time has finally come. Meanwhile, Derek sneaks into his wife's bedroom and points his gun at her. He fires it, but the gun was empty. He was cleaning it earlier and took out all of the bullets, but maybe next time it won't be. They thought that V appeared out of the blue 2 months ago, but he's been killing people for the past 4 years. Dominic wants them to check if there were any women working at the camp, and there was one, Dr. Delia Surridge. He picks up the phone and calls Derek, telling him to head over to her place because she's in great danger. Delia says she saw V the night he escaped. He was standing against the flames and he turned and looked straight at her. She knew then that one day he'd come looking for her, that he'd find her. She mentions an old experiment the Americans did where they had volunteers working a shock generator. The volunteers were told that it was wired to a patient in the next room. They were told to gradually increase the voltage, but when the victims began screaming, they didn't stop. Some of them even continued after the victims stopped screaming. They were ordinary people, and they were prepared to torture a stranger to death just because they were told to by someone in authority. Derek takes the call from Dominic and rushes out the door to reach the doctor's apartment in time, leaving his wife to cry alone. Delia says that she didn't know the terrorist was him, but after she was given his rose today, she immediately knew it was him. She wonders if he's come to kill her, but he already did that 10 minutes ago while she was asleep. He claims there's no pain involved, but before dying, she asks to see his face again, and he removes his mask. She looks at him and claims it's beautiful, but we don't see what she's seeing. V leaves her bedroom, but is greeted by Derek in the corridor, who wants him to surrender. He claims they finally got him and wants to pull the trigger, but the gun's empty. He forgot to put back the bullets after he cleaned his gun earlier. V uses this opportunity and charges at him, killing him in an instant without breaking a sweat. Finch and the crew arrive, but they're too late. The doctor and Derek are already dead, and the only thing they find is Delia's journal. Finch reports back to the leader and details the events chronologically as they happened. He also mentions the journal and begins reading it out loud, saying they still don't know who V is, but they know what he is. Dr. Delia was transferred to the Lark Hill resettlement camp, where they sent everyone who wasn't a citizen, anyone with a different skin color, and also gay people. They were badly treated and malnourished, and she remarked how miserable they all looked. She met Commander Prothero, who she found rather vulgar and unpleasant, but he promised to show her the research stock once she'd settled in. The bishop was also there, but he kept staring at her breasts, which made her uncomfortable, and she thought he was a creep. They did some kind of hormone experiments on 4 dozen people, but over 75% of them died. Only 10 were left. Eventually, there were only 5 test subjects left alive, and they were kept inside separate rooms, each numbered using Roman numerals. The patient in room 5 was really a fascinating case. Physically, there didn't seem to be anything wrong with him, no cellular anomalies, but he was quite insane. He'd developed one of those curious side effects which seemed to afflict certain categories of schizophrenics. His personality had become totally magnetic. He used to say very little, but there was something about the way he looked at you. One day, she felt that he looked at her as if she were some sort of insect. He looked at her as if he felt sorry for her. His face was very ugly, and she'd been thinking about it all evening. With time, they let him have a go at the gardening project, even though Prothero was reluctant at first, mostly because there was a food shortage, and he didn't want him messing it up. They used to grow their own crops, but V had turned things around. He was a genius at gardening and even doubled their production. He used to grow roses, beautiful roses, on a patch of land which was given to him. He was even allowed to order fertilizers for the garden, and he did, especially ammonia-based fertilizer. He used to arrange piles of it in his cell, making geometric shapes, and he used to sit motionless for hours in the center of it, but the stench was terrible. Then one day there was a powerful explosion coming from somewhere and everyone rushed outside, but the air was filled with a horrible gas. Delia escaped through the back door, but she could hear people screaming. In the center of the camp, everything was on fire, and while they were trying to work out what was going on, the oven exploded. It was the man in room 5 who had got away. He blew it up and killed a lot of people. He used the ammonia in his cell to make a bomb, which nobody thought of. In the yard she saw him. He had the flames behind him and he was naked. He looked at her as if she were an insect, as if she were something mounted on a slide, a memory which continued to haunt her ever since. After that, the camp was closed and everyone who survived was sent to work somewhere else, but V disappeared. Finch claims that between 1992 and 1993, over 40 people who were previously at Lark Hill camp were killed. He saved 3 for last: Prothero, who is now insane, Bishop Lilliman, who was poisoned, and Dr. Delia, who was also poisoned in her sleep. Everyone who could ever identify him is now dead, but Finch believes there are 2 possible motives for his actions. The first motive is revenge. After he escaped from the camp, he vowed to kill everyone who was there, and the bombing and the other stuff is just a smokescreen. The whole exercise was an elaborate, chilling vendetta. But the second motive is more sinister. What if he's planning something else? He thinks that V left the diary in full view for them to find it. He didn't try to take it, but some of the pages were torn out. What was in the missing pages? Maybe his name or his age, whether he was Jewish or homosexual or black or white. Is the vendetta really over? He's playing games with them. He's playing games that are just as elaborate as the design on the floor of room 5, as elaborate and as mad and as deadly. The leader wonders if the second theory is just madness, or maybe there's something to it. They'll just have to find out. It's January 5th, 1998, and V is doing a magic trick to keep Eevee entertained. He makes a rabbit disappear right in front of her eyes, but she wants him to bring it back. He does it, but now the cage is gone and she hasn't got a clue how he did it. They start dancing and the disco ball is slowly spinning around, lighting up the entire room. She is thankful because he saved her and gave her a place to stay, but wonders why he never made a move on her. Maybe he doesn't want to sleep with her, or maybe there's something else, or maybe he doesn't like women. There's nothing wrong with that. To which V replies, or perhaps he's her father. This leaves her in shock, and she wonders if it could be true. She's never really seen his face, so it could be anyone underneath that mask. He puts on his coat and asks her to come with him, but not before putting a blindfold on her. They start walking somewhere, but she doesn't know where they are going, and it's slowly getting colder. She reminds him that she doesn't want to kill again, even though she wanted to make a deal, and thinks this is getting kinda creepy. She removes the blindfold, only to realize that he actually took her outside, but he didn't want her to know where the shadow gallery is hidden. It's daytime, and she's scared that someone's gonna see them and wants to get back inside. V claims he's not her father because her father is dead, but she doesn't find this funny and wants him to take her back home. Suddenly, he disappears, and she's left all alone on the streets, not knowing what to do next. Derek Allman's funeral takes place, and most of the important people in the government attend, including Roger Dascom, head of the Mouth. He offered his condolences and shook her hand too long, saying that she should call him if she ever needs anything. It was an offer, but he makes her sick and she hates him. But she's a widow now, and the world looks different when you're alone. Meanwhile, Eevee is alone, and it starts raining, so she enters a random house which was open. However, the place isn't empty, and there's a guy on the floor, but he looks injured and begs for help. She panics and doesn't know what to do, so she starts running away all alone. Dascom called Derek's wife and asked if she wanted to get a meal and a drink to cheer her up, but she said no. They won't give her state support, and she can't get a job because she doesn't have any experience. But the home needs to be taken care of. There's the mortgage and electricity and the phone. Derek was her lifeline. She was stuck at home and he connected her to the world, and she's still clutching at him, even though he's broken and she's adrift. She's got to carry on because that's all we've got. That's how we survive. That's our purpose. She eventually accepted Dascom's offer and he took her out for dinner. He revolts her. He makes her feel dirty, and she knows he's only doing this to get back at Derek because everyone hated him, including his co-workers. Meanwhile, at Jordan Towers, the city's only broadcasting tower, a couple of workers are watching a movie on a small TV when out of nowhere, V comes along and beats the shit out of them. He gets into the elevator and is heading toward the upper floors, where Dascom is controlling the entertainment department, responsible for what kind of movies are shown to the general public. V is greeted by guards on the upper floor, but they are no match for him, and he easily deals with them as well. Next, he breaks into the broadcasting room and threatens to blow everyone up if they don't follow his demands. He's got dynamite wrapped around his waist and is holding a remote control, ready to blow himself and the entire building up. He gives Dascom a pre-recorded tape and asks him to play it for the people of London. There's a small window during which the broadcasting is shut off, and when it comes back online, V is sitting behind a desk, saying he and the people of London should have a little talk. V starts talking to the public and says he's not entirely satisfied with their performance lately. He thinks their work is slipping, and he's been thinking about firing them. Still, he can't forget about everyone's contribution to the company overall, recounting even the moon landing, of which humanity should be proud. While the tape is being played, a SWAT team was sent to the tower and is already breaking through the main door. The leader is watching on his TV, hoping they get to him in time, while the station staff is afraid for their lives and in shock. V says he knows about the constant bickering on the factory floor and about the recent protests and riots, which he downplays and compares to disorderly behavior in the canteen. He also talks about family disagreements and acts of violence happening between spouses. People always hurt the one they love, the one you shouldn't hurt at all. And what about the children? It's always the children who suffer. The SWAT team is getting inside the elevator and is getting ready to confront him on the upper floors. V thinks everyone should take responsibility for their actions and not blame it upon bad management, even though the management is very bad. In fact, it's terrible. We've had a string of embezzlers, frauds, liars, and lunatics making a string of catastrophic decisions, but who elected them? It was them, the people. The people who appointed these leaders, the people who gave them the power to make the decisions for them. He admits that everyone can make a mistake, but to go on making the same lethal mistakes century after century seems nothing short of deliberate. The people have accepted without question their senseless orders. They have allowed them to fill their workspaces with dangerous and unproven machines, but they could have stopped them. Unfortunately, most people don't have a spine, they don't have pride, so they are no longer an asset to the company. However, he will be generous, and he will grant them 2 years to show him some improvement in their work. If at the end of that time they are still unwilling to make a change, he's gonna fire them. The SWAT team breaks inside and finds him sitting next to the observation window, but he's not doing anything to defend himself. They start firing without asking questions, and his body falls through the glass onto the lower floor. Inspector Finch arrives and is introduced to Peter Creedy, the person who replaced Derek Almond as the new finger leader. Creedy says that V let everyone leave, everyone except Dascombe, who they can't find anywhere. They soon discover that the person hiding underneath the mask is Dascombe, leader of the Mouth. V had tricked them. He used him as a decoy while he escaped unseen, making a fool of Creedy and his men. Finch gets angry and calls him names, but Creedy says he's only angry because V killed Dr. Delia. He knows the two of them were sleeping together. Finch loses his temper and punches him in the face. The leader was good about it. He expected a lot more discipline for punching another officer in the mouth, but they've only sent him on a small holiday to cool off. Meanwhile, a man named Gordon is taking food somewhere upstairs, asking if he can come in. The person he's talking to is Eevee, who apparently is living with him after he found her alone on the streets and offered her a place to stay. Later, they go to a gentleman's bar and he orders them a few drinks. Gordon is a local bootlegger involved in the criminal world, and he tells her about different kinds of people inside the bar, mostly gangsters. Bobby, one of the older guys, a gangster on the way out, talks to Creedy and asks him for a favor about his elderly mother. Apparently, he had a deal with Derek to take care of his mother, but since he's dead now, so is the deal. Creedy thinks that old people belong in homes, but these homes are gas chambers, a place where old people are sent to die. Bobby had a few too many drinks and is upset about his mother, so he makes a scene, saying he wished one of the bombs had dropped on London. He wishes they were all dead, because nobody deserves to live like this. The other gangsters in the bar jump him and start beating him with batons until he was dead. A couple of months go by and Gordon makes a move on Eevee, asking if they want to be a couple. He didn't ask at first because he didn't know if she liked the idea, but she's grateful for his help and agrees. She wants him to give her a kiss, and the two of them make love for the first time. One day, a couple of gangsters knock on their door because Gordon owes them some money, but he calls them greedy. One of the guys, Alistair Harper, says they want to make him an offer, one that will genuinely surprise him, so Gordon gets closer to the door to listen. But instead of telling him the deal, the other guy pulls out a sword and stabs him through the door, killing him on the spot. Eevee was locked inside the bathroom, just like Gordon told her to do. But when she finds him dead on the floor, it triggers a memory of when her mother was killed and also when her father was arrested. Just as before, she's all alone with nobody to take care of her and doesn't know what to do. Eevee is sitting outside the Kitty Cat Keller Club waiting for someone, when Rosemary, Derek Allman's wife, asks if she knows where the stage door is. She got a job working at the club, but this is her first night and she doesn't know where the entrance for workers is. After some minutes, a car arrives with multiple gangsters inside, including Alistair Harper, the thug who killed Gordon in cold blood. She takes out the gun she found in Gordon's place and wants to shoot him in revenge, but somebody ambushes her from behind. She is drugged and knocked unconscious and starts dreaming that she's in her home and it's her birthday. Her father wants her to go upstairs because the guests have arrived, but her dad changes into Gordon. Upon going inside, Gordon changes into the Archbishop, whom V killed, and he lays her on the bed, but as soon as that happens, he transforms into her dad once again, and her mother catches the two of them in bed. She leaves them alone in the room and realizes that this isn't her house, but her old folks' home in South Kensington. There's a show going on, but one of the guys looks like V and starts killing people. She panics and runs away through the corridors, but V is chasing after her. She can feel him getting closer and closer, but it's a long way down. She runs towards an elevator and manages to get inside, but V is right behind her and catches her. This causes her to wake up and she realizes it was all a dream. She was in fact arrested in that back alley and taken to prison, where she's being kept behind a cold steel door. Luckily, she's not alone. There's a rat in one of the cracks in the wall, but she's scared because she thinks they're going to kill her. Someone brings her food and she doesn't want to eat, but if she doesn't, the rat will eat it, and then she'll starve. She falls asleep, but multiple guards walk in and take her away, while also blindfolding her so she doesn't see anything. She is taken to a room where a bright light blinds her from the front, making it impossible for her to see who she's talking to. They show her a tape from the night she was almost and killed by the Fingermen, the night V showed up and killed them. The guards tell her that she's being formally charged with the attempted murder of Senior Officer Peter Creedy, a frequent customer of the Kitty Cat Keller, and then they blindfold her once again. She is taken to another room where someone cuts off her hair, like they do to all inmates. She is taken back to her cell and she begins crying, realizing what they did to her, but now she doesn't mind the rat anymore. Suddenly, she sees something, a piece of toilet paper which was lodged in one of the cracks in the wall. There are 5 pages written in pencil by a woman named Valerie, probably one of the former prisoners. The next day, the guards come again and take her, but this time they torture her by pushing her head in water and drowning her. She remembers what Valerie wrote, how she was born in 1957 in Nottingham. She met her first girlfriend at school. Her name was Sarah and she was 14, while Valerie was 15 at that time. In 1976, she stopped pretending and brought a girl called Christine home to her parents, but her mother was devastated to learn that her daughter was a lesbian. But it was her integrity that was important. It sells for little, but it's all we have in this place. It's the very last inch of us, but within that inch, we are free. The interrogation continues and one of the guards accuses her of working together with codename V, planning to kill security officer Peter Creedy. She was found outside the kitty cat Keller with a loaded gun, but Eevee claims it's not true. She wasn't trying to kill him. We continue to see Valerie's life story. She worked as an actress and met another girl named Ruth. They lived together and Ruth sent her roses on Valentine's Day. They spent 3 beautiful years together, the best years of her life. Then, in 1988, the war between Russia and the United States began and everything changed. In 1992, after the takeover, they started rounding up the gays. They took Ruth while she was out looking for food. They interrogated her and forced her to tell them about her girlfriend, but Valerie didn't blame her. Ruth eventually died in prison and Valerie was arrested as well. They shaved off her hair and held her head down a toilet bowl and told jokes about lesbians. She started writing this letter on rolls of toilet paper, but didn't know who will ever read it. She wished that whoever read it escapes this place and hoped that the world turns and that things get better, and that one day people have roses again. This letter is everything Eevee has inside this place and it's the only thing keeping her going. The interrogation continues and the guards try to force a confession out of her. They want her to sign a forced confession, where she admits to the attempted murder of Mr. Peter Creedy. But she refuses to sign it and take the blame for something she didn't do. Because she refused, she is being sentenced to death and the guards take her back to her cell, where she awaits execution. The time comes and they give her one last chance to sign the confession, but she refuses and says she'd rather die behind the chemical sheds. But if that's true, there's nothing left to threaten her with. She's now free. Eevee doesn't understand what the guard means and gets out of the cell, where she sees that the guard was actually a mannequin. She goes into the interrogation room and finds another mannequin, but this one is sitting next to a tape recorder, which plays the voice that was interrogating her. This entire prison seems fake. There are props, costumes, masks, and even hair wigs everywhere, but she doesn't understand. Everything becomes clear when she goes into the next room and realizes she's actually in the shadow gallery, and V is waiting for her, welcoming her home. She was never arrested by the Fingermen. V planned this whole scene. He wanted her to think she was arrested and tortured her himself. She begins crying and can't believe that he did this to her, that he actually tortured her and made her live through this. He nearly drove her mad. He claims he did this because he loves her and because he wanted to set her free. She was already in a prison her entire life, but she says she was happy before he threw her out on the streets. She panics and starts running from him just like in her dream, saying he threw her out and she went to live with somebody else. She was in love with him and was happy. But V claims that Gordon lived in the penitentiary that we are all born into. Eventually, one of the other inmates stabbed him. Is that happiness worth more than freedom? The same thing happened to her parents. One by one, they were all taken out behind the chemical sheds and shot. But Eevee says he's wrong. It's just life, that's all. It's how life is. It's what they've got to put up with, and what gives him the right to decide it's not good enough. According to him, she was born in a prison and no longer believes there's a world outside. That's because she's afraid, because she can feel freedom closing in upon her, and this terrifies her. When she was a little girl, she used to have asthma, and now it's coming back and she can't breathe. She begins suffocating and feels as if she's going to die. She's going to burst. But isn't that what she said inside the prison? That she'd rather die? She faced fear of her own death and she was calm and still. And he wants her to feel now what she felt then. Something is happening and she starts feeling better. She's scared and cold. She feels like an angel. V claims the door of the cage is open and all that she feels is the wind from outside. He takes her outside, but for the first time since she came to his hideout, he doesn't put her blindfold on. Eevee stands completely naked on the rooftop, letting the rain wash away her fear and guilt, allowing her to become transfixed and transfigured forever. Somewhere else, Dominic asks Finch if this whole thing is over. It's been 6 months and they haven't heard a single thing from V, but Finch is too busy reading a book. He hasn't done a single thing since he came back from forced holiday and decides to go home. Eevee is feeling a lot better now and looking much healthier. She thanks V for what he did for her, but he simply provided the backdrop. The drama was all her own. He says that he didn't invent Valerie, she actually existed. She was the patient in room number 4, the one at Lark Hill resettlement camp. She wrote the letter in her own hand and delivered it to her the same way it was delivered to him. The words she was crying over were those that transformed him 5 years earlier. Meanwhile, Rosemary is getting ready for her first show at the Kitty Cat Keller Club, but she's too nervous and doesn't feel well. Her boss wants her to sit there and relax, saying the other women can do the show without her, but he offers to keep her company. V shows Eevee the garden of roses which he grew in her memory because she hoped there would be roses again. There's a flower in here for Alistair Harper, the man who killed Gordon, and if she wants revenge she only needs to pick one of the flowers, but she decides not to for now, maybe let it grow more. Meanwhile, at the head, the leader is talking to Fate and it replies back saying it loves him. He panics and doesn't understand what happened, but the message quickly disappears from the screen. While they are talking, Rosemary is having sex with her boss in the club, while Inspector Finch is drinking alone on his bed. Everything is coming to an end and V wants Eevee to be ready, saying he's gonna need her help. It's November 5th, 1998, and Brian Etheridge, head of the Ear, is working in Jordan Tower, probably spying on the general population. Dominic shows up and wonders if he's seen Finch. Apparently he's been depressed lately and nobody knows where he is. He's afraid he might do something stupid. Eevee takes out some stuff from her room, mostly toys, saying she doesn't need them anymore. She wonders what he plans to do. He mentioned the end is near, but he doesn't want to tell her just yet. He then goes outside and stares at the city while also having a music stand in front of him. Meanwhile, the leader is having some sort of episode wondering if someone actually loves him. Fate said that it loves him, but it could have been some fluke of the circuits, some trick of the eye. He just wants the computer to give him a sign. V starts acting like an orchestra conductor and pointing towards the Jordan Tower with his baton. Suddenly, there's a powerful explosion inside the tower and the whole thing is engulfed in flames. Etheridge, who was still working in his office, was killed on the spot, while others are panicking and don't know what happened. Next, V points his baton towards the old post office, causing another powerful explosion. Peter Creedy reports to the leader and says that the eye and the ear are out of action. They are blind and deaf and unable to speak to the public, but someone else can. Someone else begins broadcasting on the radio claiming to be the voice of Fate. The voice claims that for 3 whole days people's movements will not be watched, their conversations will not be listened to, and they will act as they please. This is the beginning of the end, and V takes a bow while the city burns in flames. Since the cameras can't record anymore, a little girl takes out a spray paint can and begins vandalizing a wall, painting V's symbol for everyone to see. There might be panic on the streets, but they don't have enough people to patrol the streets because some of them will be attending Brian Etheridge's funeral. The leader wants Creedy to send Mrs. Etheridge some flowers with his apologies, but they will cancel all police leave and double the manpower on the streets, and looters are to be shot on sight. The police patrol the streets and claim the situation is under control, but someone breaks the window of a store and steals canned food. The police quickly find the person who stole from the shop and shoot her in the head in front of other people, just like the leader ordered. But the people are so afraid and disorganized. A few might take the opportunity to protest, but it will just be a voice crying in the wilderness. The next day, Eevee is training in the gym, while V is listening to police reports on one of his scanners. There are multiple incidents happening all across the city and the police call for reinforcements. There are multiple riots happening at the same time, and Eevee wonders if this is anarchy, but anarchy means without leaders, not without order. With anarchy comes an age of organization, of true order, which is to say voluntary order. This is not anarchy, this is chaos. The leader is sitting in front of the supercomputer and thinks to himself, while it shows him images of horrific acts of violence recorded throughout time. He's completely hypnotized by the images and feels a deeply disturbed connection with Fate, and even climaxes calling the computer his love. Rosemary meets with Alistair in a back alley and pays him £400 for a gun, claiming she needs it for protection against rioters on the streets. Next, Alistair gets a visit from Peter Creedy, who wants to hire him and a couple of his goons to work for the government. He says that because of the riots, he's been authorized to hire some extra muscle and is willing to pay him in cash. Somewhere else, Helen, who is Conrad Haya's wife, also known as Head of the Eye, is taking a bath, but her husband is washing her body while she humiliates him. She thinks that the leader lost his mind and Peter Creedy is attempting a coup. When that happens, she wants her husband to take the leader's position and not Creedy. She's got things to organize in the morning, so she's going to bed, but not before shutting off the lights and leaving her husband in complete darkness, another act of humiliation. V brings Eevee to a room she's never been in, a room where he keeps a supercomputer just like the one the leader uses. Apparently someone is spreading subversive poems all across the city, and Dominic doesn't understand what they mean. Peter Creedy comes to his office and offers him a position as head of the nose. That's if he takes the leader's position. Dominic asks him to get out of his office because he has work to do. Piece by piece, the dominoes are beginning to fall and everything is going according to V's plan. Meanwhile, Alistair begins working for Creedy and starts rounding up people who are protesting and rioting against the government. Creedy wants him to permanently work for the government once he takes power and is willing to offer him $400 a week, a generous offer which Alistair accepts. Later, Helen Hire meets with Alistair and wants him to work for her and her husband, offering to pay him $600 a week as long as he reports everything back to her. More domino pieces are falling into place, just as V predicted it would happen. Rosemary continues working for the Kitty Cat Keller Club, dancing with other girls for the entertainment of men. She resents her ex-husband for dying and leaving her in this position. Just before the war, she used to work at the bank while he was in insurance and they were gonna buy a house in Surrey, but in 1992 he joined the party and everything changed. Meanwhile, we see what happened to Inspector Finch, who instead of coming back to work, is heading towards Lark Hill resettlement camp, or what's left of it, more domino pieces falling into place. Dominic keeps reading the subversive poems from the streets and comes to a startling realization. V has finished making a V-shaped domino arrangement and is about to make the pieces fall into place, just as intended. Dominic went straight to the leader's office because he thinks that Fate was hacked by V a long time ago. He's had access since the beginning, but the leader already knows this because there's a V-shaped wallpaper on one of the screens. It's November 7th, 1998, and Finch arrives at the Lark Hill resettlement camp, determined to find out everything he can about V's past and origins. He thinks that V is crazy, and in order to learn the truth, he needs to get inside his mind. He takes 2 pills of LSD, which hopefully put him in a different state of mind. It doesn't take long for the drugs to take effect, and he quickly sees a couple of decapitated bodies hanging upside down on fences. But he was just imagining it. Next, he thinks he's one of the prisoners from the camp, wearing one of the uniforms and seeing the people who were sent here. He'd almost forgotten how rich the color of their skin was. 1,000 special blends of coffee. He's missed them. He's missed hearing their voices, their food, their clothes, and he wants them to know that he cares. But the people run away from him and disappear into the walls. Next, he goes inside one of the buildings and finds Delia cooking something. She isn't alone because Bishop Lilliman is here as well, and he wants to confess his sins. He refuses, so Prothero and his guards take him to the medical section, where they place him inside room number 5. This is the same room where V used to stay, and it's filled with fertilizers, which he used to scatter on the ground. Finch wonders who imprisoned him here, who keeps him here, and also who can release him. He smells the ammonia that's still in the cell and begins feeling something, as if his mind is being unclouded, and he claims he's free now. He takes off his clothes and remains completely naked, just like V was when he escaped, and wonders if this is what he felt, this vitality, this vision. Meanwhile, back at the Shadow Gallery, Eevee questions V and wonders if he's going to do something or just sit out the chaos down here. Instead of giving her a clear answer, he talks in riddles, which pisses her off. She's tired of his metaphors and riddles and just wants a straight answer for once, so he decides to show her something. They walk from one room to the next, passing the computer which is connected to Fate. While he says that all rooms are connected, he takes her down a long staircase, a place she's never been before, while she tries to get her bearings straight and memorize everything. They arrive in a room filled with monitors where he spies on everyone inside the city. He blacked out all the televisions during the explosions, but his monitors are still working. He shows her a room where she'll find books and equipment that will tell her how to make explosives out of coffee or psychedelic drugs as cheap as water. Next, he takes her into the Rose Room, and Eevee wonders if there's a rose for the leader, Mr. Susan, but not here. He's cultivated the most special rose for him somewhere else. Next, he shows her some packages of explosives, but she says she doesn't want to use them to kill anyone anymore. According to him, anarchy wears 2 faces, both creator and destroyer. The destroyers topple empires to make a canvas of clean rubble where creators can then build a better world. Rubble once achieved makes further ruinous means irrelevant, so he doesn't need explosives anymore, and the destroyers don't have any place within their better world. The last level is an old metro station where he keeps an old train in perfect condition. It's painted beautifully with gold lines, and there's an amazing garden of flowers cultivated inside. They place the explosives on the ground, but Eevee wonders what it's for, though she doesn't get an answer. All she gets are more riddles, which piss her off even more, and she says she hates their conversations that turn into crossword puzzles. It's November 9th, 1998, and the leader is sitting comfortably in his chair, staring at Fate. Somewhere else, Rosemary is getting dressed to leave her apartment, but her gun is sitting on the pillow next to her. Inspector Finch's vision is over and he's walking back towards the city after he freed his mind. Helen Hire is reading a news report that says the leader is scheduled to make a public appearance today and restore public calm. Her husband is kissing her toes, adoring her like a simp, while she's devouring a box of chocolates. She smacks him over the head with the report, saying he can have a chocolate and the rest of the box when he's the leader. Creedy meets with Alistair and asks him about his predecessor, Derek Almond. Alistair says that he would have never considered hiring him and his people for security, Almond was a very superior man, unlike Creedy, who isn't superior at all. Rosemary is finally dressed, and she leaves her apartment, but not before taking the gun which was lying on her bed. Helen Heyer shows her tits toward one of the cameras planted in her apartment, claiming that every party member has one in their bedrooms. No wonder she never let her husband touch her. But now the party can't record anymore, so she uses this opportunity to have sex with Alistair, trying to use her sex appeal to get him under control, just like she does with her husband. Even though the party can't record them anymore, V can, and he does just that from his spying room in the Shadow Gallery. The time for the leader's appearance is here, and one of the guards arrives to take him. Before leaving, he kisses the computer and says that he forgives her. Finch eventually arrives back in London and walks towards Victoria Metro Station, which has been abandoned for years. He walks down the stairs and is guided by the lights and the cameras, but he doesn't know what he's going to find. He eventually arrives in the train station, exactly where V's train is parked. The leader is being driven through the city while the people cheer his name on the sidelines. He talks to himself and wonders why he can't feel anything for them. It's only him there, and he's known this since childhood, that no one else is real. It's only him and God, while claiming he's talked to his creator about black people and gay people. He believes that God embodied a form that he could love, and he knew this when he first saw her screens, her smooth, unyielding lines. Not as a woman, with a strange, sweaty and ugly body, but something cold, hard and sensual. But then she betrayed him. Now there's nothing. Now he's alone, except for the people waving at him. But even the people's love isn't real, because they are being threatened by armed gunmen behind their backs, hired thugs by Alistair to make it seem like everyone loves him. Finch continues walking through the corridors until he finds a mannequin on the ground and a voice recording next to it. But he's not alone, because V appears behind him saying they are finally meeting. The parade stops and the leader gets out of his car to shake people's hands, but the first woman he greets is Rosemary. But she's not here to shake his hand, because she takes out her gun and shoots him in the head. Finch panics and he takes out his gun and shoots the terrorist, while V throws one of his daggers straight into his shoulder, injuring him. He then claims he couldn't have killed him, because there's no flesh or blood within this cloak to kill. There's only an idea, and ideas are bulletproof. He then leaves Finch alive and goes away, while Rosemary is being subdued by the guards as Creedy and the others watch in disbelief. Finch removes the dagger and starts laughing after seeing the blood trail left by V, claiming he was made of flesh and blood after all. But in the end, he killed the monster. He killed him. Rosemary is being interrogated and asked if V is the one who hired her to kill the leader. But no, she did it all on her own because he ruined their lives in his vision, and their lives are all they had. Creedy makes an announcement, declaring a state of emergency, and for its duration the task of maintaining order will naturally pass to the Finger, aka him. They've received a message postmarked yesterday that codename V intends to appear at midnight tonight, no doubt provoking further disorder. But suddenly Finch walks through the door, claiming that codename V is dead. He shot him. They don't know whether to believe him or not, especially since he's still kinda high. But Helen Heyer says that even though Finch is boring, he's still a reliable little man. So he probably did it. Creedy thinks he's in charge of London, but she has other plans and leaves her husband, saying things need arranging, but maybe she'll see him in a good mood tonight. Finch talks to his partner and says he doesn't understand one thing. In the tunnel, he had his back turned, but V didn't kill him. Why not? Even after he took his gun out, he could have stopped him, but he didn't, as if he wanted to get shot. Dominic wonders where it all happened, where his hideout is, but Finch lies and says he doesn't remember, probably because of the drugs. Conrad Heyer goes into his office and finds a videotape that was left for him by someone. It's the tape that V recorded of his wife making love with Alistair and mocking her husband, which completely breaks him. Creedy records a public message which is being transmitted all over the city, saying that codename V has been shot and the insurrection is over. Everyone is asked to return to their homes and be with their loved ones. Next, he meets with Alistair, who says their deal is off because he got a better offer from someone else. He then takes out his knife and kills him in cold blood, while his thugs hold him down. That will teach him to make deals with criminals. They're not trustworthy people. V is able to walk all the way back up the stairs, but he's been mortally shot and doesn't have much time left. He says this country is not saved, but all its old beliefs have come to rubble, and from rubble they can rebuild. That is their task, to rule themselves, their lives, their loves and land. He wants her to discover whose face lies behind the mask, but she should never know his face. Is that clear? Also, the Victoria line is blocked twixt Whitehall and St. James. He also wants her to give him a Viking funeral. With his dying final words, he claims he loves her and calls her sweet, while also quoting something in Latin, which translates to, "Hail and farewell." Eevee returns to the spying room and hears the repeated radio message, which claims that codename V has been mortally wounded and the insurrection is over. She follows his blood trail down the stairs while also recounting what he told her, that anarchy wears two faces, both creator and destroyer, and from the rubble, they can build a better world. She stares at his body and contemplates removing the mask to see who he really is. But that isn't what he wanted her to do. He was so big, and what if he's just nobody? Or even if he's somebody, he'll be smaller because of all the people that he could have been, but wasn't. She gets down next to his body. Her hands are trembling. She can hardly find the fastenings, but finally she lifts away that maddening smile and sees her own face. At last, she knows who V must be. She goes into the changing room and stares at herself in the mirror, while also smiling creepily like V's mask. It's 9:30 p.m. and the people are still on the streets, but they're not terrorists, followers, or anything. They're just rioters. V has become a sort of all-purpose symbol to them, and Finch admits that people need symbols, but they've forgotten it. Many people lost family members during the war. They've kept a lid on their bitterness for years, but they haven't helped them deal with it. V took the lid off, just like visiting Lark Hill did for him. Everything's different now, and he doesn't feel like he belongs here anymore. He's following his own orders now and getting out before everything blows up. Perhaps he should do the same thing. Alistair returns to Helen's apartment, saying they have a couple of hours left to make love before her husband comes home. But when he walks in the room, the tape of the two of them making love is playing, but he's not alone. Conrad was waiting for him, and he attacks him with a wrench, smacking him in the head from behind. Unfortunately, during the attack, Conrad was also injured with a razor and is bleeding to death on his carpet. His wife comes back home and refuses to help him, accusing him of ruining everything. They were planning to take control of the finger, but they needed Alistair, but now that he's dead, everything went to shit. Conrad works for the Eye, responsible for spying on people. She accuses him of loving to watch other people, so she points the camera at him, allowing him to watch himself slowly bleed to death. The crowds are getting restless, waiting for V's appearance while Dominic is on the streets, wondering what happened to Peter Creedy, why he isn't here to handle this. It's midnight and V finally makes an appearance on the rooftops, even though the announcement claimed he was dead. He introduces himself, but he doesn't have a name, so they can just call him V. Since mankind's dawn, a handful of oppressors have accepted the responsibility over people's lives that they should have accepted for themselves. By doing so, they took their power. By doing nothing, they gave it away. The oppressor's way leads through camps and wars, towards the slaughterhouse. But in anarchy, there is another way. With anarchy, from rubble comes new life, hope reinstated. Tomorrow, Downing Street will be destroyed, the head reduced to ruins, an end to what has gone before. Tonight, the people must choose what comes next. Lives of their own, or a return to chains. But they need to choose carefully. He then disappears, which causes the people to erupt, as well as the guards who were trying to calm spirits. Dominic is desperately trying to escape the mob of people, but he was injured by rocks and garbage thrown at them. V appears and drugs him, and he quickly goes unconscious while staring at her mask. V asked Eevee to give him a Viking funeral, and that's exactly what she plans to do. She carries him inside the train and places him amidst the flowers and the boxes of explosives. She gives him one final kiss on the lips and then starts the train, which quickly leaves the station. He mentioned that the Victoria line was blocked twixt Whitehall and St. James, and it's true, she checked. There's rubble sealing off the line. She has 4 minutes to get to the rooftops before the train reaches the dead end. The place where the line is blocked is exactly under Downing Street, the center of this oppressive regime. The train explodes exactly on time after reaching its destination, causing a massive fire that engulfs a big part of the city. Eevee took Dominic inside the shadow gallery and took care of his wounds, but he wakes up confused and doesn't know what happened. Finch is walking towards the edge of the city, where he runs into Helen Hire, who is being attacked by a group of thugs. She's happy to see him, claiming a mob of people turned her car over on the way out of London and took everything. She wants him to take care of her, saying she always knew he wasn't like Conrad or Almond or the others. He's her savior. He knows exactly what kind of a snake she actually is and rejects her offer, so she calls him gay, just like all the other bastard police officers. He leaves her to the thugs and continues his journey out of London, lighting his pipe and getting engulfed in his thoughts.